Ladies lovely, with power over all, beseech I thee, answer my call. Before you a worm crawls, wretched and small. Witches, warriors and wanderers alike will always carry a bestiary on them when exploring the untamed wilds of the northern kingdoms. Some beasts are familiar, natural things, wolves, bears, dogs and boars. Others are magical, objects of awe and apprehension, dragons and vampires, ghouls and golems. But some beasts are inexplicable, the spawn of forces far beyond human understanding. To write a bestiary entry on such beasts would be fatuous, a mechanism to cope with the enigmatic elements of the world that expose men for the fragile, insignificant animals they are. In the eastern expanses of Velen, where most mortals daren't tread, lies Crookback Bog. Deep within the fetid, roiling swamps, you'll encounter an abundance of nuisances. If the turbid waters do not afflict you with a flesh-eating parasite or a fatal infection, then the drowners will surely drag you beneath the muck. Do not trust a single undulation in those stagnant pools, but there are forces in this bog that supersede necrophages, unthinkable monsters that cannot be categorized by our rational definitions. In the words of one little godling named Johnny, they're as old as this forest, cruel, vindictive, not to be crossed. They are the ladies of the wood, sister crones, hand in hand, terrors of the sea and land. Thus do go about thrice to thine, and thrice to mine, and thrice again to make up 9. The bestiary offers this verse from Act 1, Scene 3, of a play called Macbeth. And of course, this is clearly derivative of a rhyme from a different play, hailing from a different universe, our universe. In the tragedy of Macbeth, the 3 witches meet upon the heath, amid thunder and lightning, and they chant a prophecy. Soon the weird sisters embroil themselves in the affairs of the protagonist, with promises of glory that blind Macbeth to the ominous sorceries at work. We may not have a firm understanding of the eldritch crones of Crookback Bog, but today we're going to make sense of all the information we have on the good ladies, and with the help of an array of real-world inspirations, we may yet be able to decipher what these primeval beasts truly are. Hey guys, it's Drew here, and this Witcher lore video has been a long time coming. From the haunting melody of the lyra, to the candlelit cabin, and the tapestry of the young weaving women, and then when they manifest in their true forms. I've never seen such a disturbing set of characters in any game I've played. Savage monsters that remorselessly demolish everything and everyone in their paths are all well and good, but I think witches are much more interesting. In truth, they're repulsive, malevolent creatures, closer to demon than human, yet they can hide in civilization, sowing hysteria, turning people against one another, making honourable men butcher innocent girls, controlled by fear. On the bright side, folklore surrounding witches is fascinating, and we're going to delve into all manner of mythology in this video, from genuine scientific texts on demonology to nonsensical wives' tales. Let's start by discussing what we know about the crones of Crookback Bog. They hear all through severed ears, they weave hair and twist lives, they take their strength from a broth of human flesh. You know the crones are mysterious when the bestiary entry reads, "No one knows their true names, nor what breed of monstrosity they in fact are. They are classed for whatever reason as relicts, but as I mentioned earlier, it's futile trying to define them by any human standards. A relict is something that has survived from a bygone time, like an animal that continues to exist in isolation when their species is otherwise thought to be extinct. In some respects this is true. The crones are unlike anything from the modern age. The remote corners of the Witcher world harbour creatures older than humans, older than academies and mages, older even than elves and dwarves. The crones of Crookback Bog are such creatures, yet still the notion that there were other entities like the crones wandering the forests eons ago seems implausible. The sisters are as old as the trees, and as inherent to the land as all the forces of nature. They are thus considered to be eternal beings, immortal, but they can be killed. Their longevity is a testament to the fact that any man who seeks to slay them becomes the victim, and stew is made from their blood and meat and bones. Their propensity for brewing broths with every ingredient under the sun, no matter how foul, is one they share with most incarnations of the 3 witches, and Macbeth's wayward sisters love to turn their profane recipes into chants. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. The pot is always boiling in their secluded cavern, and the witch's song echoes, fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake, eye of a newt and toe of a frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blindworm's sting, lizard's leg and owlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. And when the concoction is almost ready, Cool it with a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good. In some way, the potent magics available to the Crones come from boiling charms, and they are known to take on their beautiful human forms when cooking. The elixirs they brew are believed to keep them youthful and give them access to their feminine disguises. When the Crones found a weakened Ciri, they could smell her elder blood and salivated at the thought of adding her flesh to their broth. And just like the weird sisters of Macbeth, the threads of fate and prophecy were drawn to them. Speaking of threads, the Crones are known by the names Weavess, Brewess, and Wispess. The Weavess is the youngest of the sisters, a distinction that means nothing to humans, as all three are ancient from a mortal's perspective. And it is the Weavess who wove the magnificent tapestry in the cabin, not from wool, but from human hair. In a ceremony known as the cutting, the young boys of the surrounding villages have their hair cut for the first time, to signify their passage to manhood. The Weavess collects the hair and weaves tapestries from it. If the weft is straight, happy's the fate. Another of the witch's many portentous poems. Through these tapestries, worshippers and those indebted to the ladies could pay their tributes, even commune with them on rare occasions when they wish to have their will known. The Weavess's hunched, scraggy form is most distinguishable by her red conical hat, and the frayed noose hanging limp from her neck. She also appears to have two not fully formed legs protruding from her torso. The Brewess is the middle sister. She is a connoisseur of flesh and blood. She is the cook, the alchemist. The Brewess is a master concoctor of magical mixtures, and has over a dozen unique recipes for human soup. Beneath Bald Mountain on the day of their Sabbath, we see the Brewess at work, preparing a broth from a man they lured into bed, using the root from the cursed tree as a spice for the concoction. Round about the cauldron go, in the human's entrails throw. In her true form, the Brewess is the infernal interpretation of gluttony. Her pocked skin is pink and varicose, her body is bloated, distended by her dreadful diet, and her engorged flesh is constricted by ropes that long ago brave souls would have used in vain to kill her. Thankfully, her face is hidden behind a wicker basket. The oldest of these ancient witches is the Wispess. About her waist she carries a sack of dismembered body parts. Her face is concealed behind a lattice of red fabric, but even with her head covered, she hears all. She wears a string of collected human ears around her neck, and it is rumoured that this is how the Wispess monitors the goings-on in the bog and the forest. She keeps an impressive collection of ears on her person, but there are countless more scattered around the land, hanging from high branches, giving her unlimited access to even the faintest of whispers, uttered miles away. Together they are the Crones, the sisters, the ladies of the wood. As the line double toil and trouble from Macbeth suggests, the weird sisters of real-world folklore, as well as the Crones from the Witcher world, both have a reputation for offering blessings with double meanings, enticing promises that use play on words to deceive the human who seeks out their help. But the people of the bog know that the ladies do offer genuine aid to the mortals inhabiting their domain. The Wispess is always in need of new ears to bolster the ranks of her mutilated surveillance network, and the Weavess is always looking to acquire thread for her tapestries. So they do have some maternal influence over the people. One such example is the protection the Crones provide to the village of Down Warren. When they rid the settlement of a problem, they claim an ear as payment. Another example comes in the form of Anna, the estranged wife of the Bloody Baron. Anna was with child when she came to the Crones. In the words of the Wispess, the ladies helped her with this unwanted pregnancy in exchange for a year of servitude. As exploitative as these pacts may seem to us, there are humans who dwell in Crookback Bog by choice, and they have doubtless speculated about the true origins of the ladies. A question of this magnitude could never be answered with certainty, but there are stories. The first of these origins, the one with a more tenuous link, still warrants a mention, and this is a potential connection to Melatel, the mother goddess worshipped in all corners of the northern kingdoms. According to the Last Wish, the cult of Melatel was one of the oldest, and in its day, one of the most widespread cults from time immemorial. Practically every pre-human race and every primordial nomadic human tribe honoured a goddess of harvest and fertility, a guardian of farmers and gardeners, a patroness of love and marriage. Many of these religions merged into the cult of Melatel. Love, fertility, motherhood, marriage. Her matronly teachings are the most prevalent, but she is also the patroness of nature, and nature is eternally transient. Plant life and animal life alike sprout and wither, grow old and return to the earth. Because of this, Melatel is often portrayed in three parts: the beautiful young maiden, the mature pregnant mother, and the edentulous, wrinkled crone. Her depiction as a crone, combined with her divine governance over the forces of nature, as well as the abundance of shrines to Melitel all over Velen, has led many humans to see a connection between the Mother Goddess and the Ladies of the Wood. No solid evidence exists to link these, however, beyond mere coincidence. The other origin story for the ladies, which seems to have genuine veracity, is the undeniable relationship between the sisters and the ghost haunting the Whispering Hillock. Folklore surrounding this ghost in the Crones refers to her as She Who Knows. I'll read you the story of She Who Knows now. Folks say they were four at first. The mother, She Who Knows, the Lady of the Wood, came here from a faraway land, and since she had suffered terribly from loneliness, she made 3 daughters out of dirt and water. A long time ago, the mother was sole ruler over all of Velen. Her daughters brought her the people's requests and served as her voice. Each spring, sacrifices of grain, animals and men were made to the Lady of the Wood on her special night. Yet as the years passed, the Lady of the Wood slipped deeper and deeper into madness. Her madness eventually spread over the land. Men took to abandoning their homes and setting out into the bog, where they became food for beasts. Before long, Velen was drowning in blood. The daughters saw their land nearing destruction and took it upon themselves to save it. When spring came once more, and with it the night sacrifices, they killed their mother and buried her in the bog. Her blood watered the oak atop Ard Kerbin, and from then on the tree grew wholesome and hearty fruit for the people. As for the lady's immortal soul, it refused to leave its beloved land, and so the sisters imprisoned it. To this day it lies trapped beneath the Whispering Hillock, where it thrashes about in a powerless rage. You could chalk this tall tale up to one anonymous storyteller's imagination. Perhaps over the centuries some old wives took to spooking young troublesome children with it. But both the ghost and the Crones themselves lend credence to the stories. The ghost claims the sisters killed her and cursed her ghost. The Crones claim the spirit imprisoned within the tree was one who once cheated death, an ancient power that could not be allowed to roam free. But the lingering issue here is that we are discussing forces unfamiliar to mortals, and we're forced to take a ghost in a tree's word, or the word of 3 witches. Perhaps the ghost was the Lady of the Wood, the mother of the Crones, or perhaps the sisters had saved the swamp from the evil spirit. It will always remain a mystery, especially now that Ciri and Geralt have put an end to the witches once and for all. In the Witcher world, you can always find parallels between the creatures Geralt encounters and creatures from real-world myths and folklore, and the Crones share similarities with witches from many cultures. Central and Eastern European folklore features heavily, as you'd expect from a world conjured up by a Polish author. In Russian fairy tales, there is a supernatural being called Baba Yaga. She is an old lady who dwells deep in the forest, flying around in a mortar, wielding a pestle. She lives in a remote hut which stands on chicken legs, and depending on who you ask, may appear as a single entity or one of 3 sisters. Sounds rather familiar, doesn't she? There are also 3 other spirits in Slavic folklore that are commonly called the Rozhenicy. If there are any Eastern Europeans watching, forgive my horribly British attempt at enunciating your words. This trio of female spirits resemble fate, destiny and luck. Heading further west, we of course see similarities between the Crones and the weird sisters of Shakespeare's Macbeth. The Witcher 3 bestiary entry makes it abundantly clear that the Wayward Sisters were an inspiration for the Crones. And speaking of taking inspiration, rumour has it that Shakespeare was keen on doing that rather liberally. To be fair, you could argue that no idea is truly original, but I digress. The Weird Sisters are doubtless derivative of both British folklore and Holinshed's chronicles. King James VI of Scotland and First of England himself wrote a treatise on the pervasive perils of witchcraft, and Holinshed's chronicles, a comprehensive guide to British history, was a primary source for most of Shakespeare's historical plays, Macbeth among them. Holinshed had described the 3 witches as creatures of the elder wood, nymphs or fairies. Will can take full credit for turning them from beautiful nymphs to ugly old hags though. Of course, all representations of 3 female spirits of fate and destiny derive in some form or another from the fates of ancient Greek mythology. The Sisters of Fate, also known as the Moirai to the Greeks, were the white-robed incarnations of destiny, and their personification of every mortal's fate from life to death was portrayed as a thread. One sister would spin the thread, the next sister would determine its length, and the final sister would cut the thread, determining the manner of a person's death. The Roman equivalent to the Fates were called the Parsi, and operated in the same way. Thanks largely to Shakespeare and the historical hysteria surrounding witches, the fair maidens tasked with weaving the tapestry of life were transformed into the contemptible crones we see in Crookback Bog. If you find yourself in the sodden swamps, and you think you spy the shapes of 3 comely maidens through the thick fog, remember that in the realm of the Crones, fair is foul and foul is fair. Do not trust your eyes. Listen for the enchanting sound of a song drawing closer, and slender shapes dancing around a bubbling cauldron. Whatever you do, don't succumb, for something wicked this way comes. And there you have it, guys, the ladies of the wood, the Crones of Crookback Bog. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, my name is Drew, and I'll see you in the next one.